Stop in the... I don't know.
Name of love.
We're going to ignore you till next year.
New.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled.
Getting tabled. With the Bruce and gang.
Hello, future people, and I'm back in this episode of Getting Tabled with your other host, the Bruce.
Hello. And unlike George, I do remember that Captain Socks exists.
Appreciate it, Bruce. I've been at this for almost 2 years, and I'm finally getting recognized in this podcast.
And then George finds a way to not get it included anyway. Those that are watching the video version of this might actually know what we're talking about. I'll see if I can include it somehow.
Anyways, we'll start the new year off right. I'll get the bumper fixed. Amongst some time.
For those that are wondering, I have been working on our bumpers to recreate them and update them a little bit in some cases. But due to technical limitations, we're sticking with the old ones for another episode.
For the year. We're sticking with them for the year.
So, shall we discuss some recently updated topics and stuff?
This thing right here?
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yep, that stuff.
Battleforge has a beta? Yeah,
so we knew that this was coming out. So this is 40k, for those that are going, what's Battleforge? So 40k's army builder has finally come out in its beta form. I have not had the chance to actually use it personally. It is only available on mobile devices. I know that's going to annoy some people, but I'm not really surprised that that's gone that way.
Well, so this is actually like the second beta I've seen. Year and a half ago, it was available only on the website. And that thing was a pile of hot garbage back then.
I've not used it, so what I'm about to say could be complete trolls just having a go at Games Workshop. Because that happens all the time. But from what I've heard, it's not much better this time so far.
I have the app on my phone for Victory at Sea as well as Black Seas from Warlord Games.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the only two that I have the data for to build armies. And so far, it doesn't seem to be that bad. It'd be nice to have a little bit more information about the actual stats.
Hang on, Socks. Are you talking Battle Scribe? The one that looks like...
yeah. Sorry,
yes,
Battle
he is.
Scribe.
Yeah. No, so this is GW's intellectual property army builder. Now...
To be fair, it's not a bad comparison to make though. Accidentally or otherwise, he is right. It's Battlescribe has been around forever.
Battlescribe is so good sometimes that's why I primarily don't buy codexes, because I can get all the rules I need from Battlescribe from the library for whatever army I'm using.
Which is why their poorly attempted joke went down so well, because people have been kind of waiting for that to happen.
Right?
For those that are wondering, there was a program that works for Battlescribe that decided to make a joke that they'd been cease and desisted, which they weren't. Probably not the most intelligent of jokes to have made.
Well, at least it was a joke and not like, hey, let's use Holocaust footage to promote our new...
Well, yeah.
It's
been an interesting year.
Yeah, God. So if they have learned anything from, I believe it's called Azure, the Age of Sigmar army builder that Games Workshop has, if they've done anything as far as like mimicking that, it'd be a really great app.
Well, Azure, I haven't used. I have used everything but Azure, and everything works really, really well. But they've had,
Azure.
4 years now to work on that?
I've been using Azure longer than that, and it's been working great from the get-go.
Um,
So if you haven't tried it, Bruce, I highly recommend you give it a shot.
The only reason I haven't yet is because my Skaven aren't ready to play with, and I didn't want to pay for it until they were ready to play with.
It's free to download. To use it, you don't need to do a monthly sub. The monthly sub is for actually building an army.
Yeah.
And for me, that's $1 a month.
Yes, it's like not much more than that here. The only thing reasonable. I know of, apparently when because this first launched alongside the Blood Angels, and there was an error in there. I don't remember what it was. Something about Flesh Terrors had a rule wrong in the thing or something. But otherwise, it's just the usual, it's going to be crap, I may as well just use Battle Scribe trolling stuff. But look, it's out. We've been knowing it's been coming for a while. I need to have a play with it. And given what we're chatting about later, I will have a reason to.
And I am currently trying to find it to download it, but I can't find it. So we'll just move on.
Well, the link that I provided, if you go to that, it will give you a link to the App Store.
Right, I'll have to pull that link up on my phone. So, but yeah.
Yes.
Ooh.
So, we've covered Archon's incoming battle, not battle, board game a couple of times now. We have seen He-Man. Currently up exclusively for our Patreons is Skeletor. That will be going live to everybody else at some stage tomorrow. And we've now got She-Ra. So She-Ra is on Swiftwing. This, in theory, should be the biggest of all of them, because it's a horse with wings, not just a cat with armour on. And those wings look like they're about the size of the horse alone.
Yeah.
Spoilers for those that haven't seen the video. What I did find with Skeletor is, unlike the He-Man figure, this didn't come in foam, which is odd. But this one came not broken, unlike my He-Man one. So, I can't complain. It was a very easy fix for those that haven't seen the video. I'm kind of hoping we're coming to the end of these preview limited edition things, because I can't continue to pay twice as much for postage as I'm paying for a figure. I'm kind of guessing that we'll probably get Hodak as well, because if we've got She-Ra, we'll probably get Hodak. It would make sense.
Yeah. So I just realized this when you're talking about He-Man and Battlecat. I just realized I want to get that and paint it and mod it to make it look like Joe Exotic.
I kind of want to see that now. Do it. It'll be cheaper for you to do that with the Simon one.
If and when we get that.
For those that haven't been listening to us for some time, about 8 or 9 months ago, we had this conversation that I started where we talked about 80... I think Captain Sucks was away at this point, or it was just before he left. Where, like, 80s franchises that would work really good as tabletop games. And He-Man is the one that I suggested. At that point in time, nobody had made any games. And now we have 2 of them coming. One of which was by Simon, which disappointed me. And the other one is by Archon Studio, obviously. Archon's been kind of pushing their limited edition stuff to hype things up. Archon is only selling theirs in Europe. Simon is only selling theirs everywhere else. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes. Is it Mattel that owns? No, it's it's Mattel that owns He-Man, I think.
It's Mattel. So the one thing I will say, and this may be nothing, because, well, you can answer the question. So look at the base on the She-Ra. It looks like it's the same kind of plastic mold as the Super Fantasy Brawl figures.
It does look very correct? Similar, yeah. It's kind of hollow underneath, like our ones are, but it's resin, not plastic.
Okay.
But otherwise, like details, it is roughly about that size. It's a 25mm size. Okay. Underneath, it says Mattel and Archon. and otherwise it's just like generic rocks and stuff, because you're not allowed to have a tabletop mini unless it's standing on a generic rock.
Right.
I have a feeling, just kind of throwing things out and seeing where it'll stick, I have a feeling that Mattel is going to regret splitting the license between two companies. Because I just don't see this going... They're both companies that make really good products, but ultimately there's going to be people that get annoyed that they can't buy one or they can't buy the other. And that's... I can see that backfiring to some extent when these eventually come out. There's already people upset that they can't get their hands on this. By rights, I shouldn't be able to get my hands on this, which is why I'm having to pay so stupid amounts of money for it.
Well, and I think that goes to, you know, I also think maybe Mattel was slightly smart on this, where, excuse me, they truly dedicated fans that have the capability and ability to
That's fair.
get both. I mean, which is going to make you more money, you know, to manufacturers selling, you know, your intellectual property, that, you know, there's going to be a percentage of the players that are going to buy both.
Yeah, fair. Did you ever watch He-Man as a kid, Captain Sucks?
Briefly, not very much.
And I make this reference in my video, but I think the answer should be pretty obvious. Who's the best character in the He-Man series?
Ram Man?
No, it's Skeletor. It's clearly Skeletor. He insults everybody. He's awesome.
Yeah, but Ram Man rams.
Yeah, He-Man. Let's move on. We've got another advent calendar from TTCombat. But first we're talking about...
You say, are we doing Carnival?
Yeah, Carnivale have a... This was announced the day before, I think? I want to... No, this is December 1st.
Tuesday.
Yeah. So, there's a new 2-player starter set coming for Carnivale, which is by TTCombat. This is a license they picked up when a company was going out of business. Not Hawk Wargames, this was someone else. So this is like an updated version. In this you're getting, I believe it's the Doctors, and I'm trying to think who the other group is. Oh, it's the Doctors and the Guild.
So I just scrolled down really quick, and this is the shocking part. This 2-player starter is retailing for £35.
Yeah, it's insane, and it's coming with card terrain and everything. This is probably one of their best moves. Not to say that their moves aren't... They usually are pretty good with their moves, but they're doing a 2-player starter set for $35. It's coming roughly with the same amount of stuff that comes in your drop zone starters, not the 2-player, but the single player.
Yeah.
With a game like this where it's all skirmish, you kind of, for a tabletop game, you kind of want to start with small stuff and be able to expand outwards. As opposed to, like, obviously you couldn't do that with Warhammer because you couldn't play a game, but same with Drop Fleet, you couldn't play a game with 2 ships. But
yeah,
it does work quite well with this. You're getting bridges, you're getting a boat, you're getting generic terrain, there's buildings. It actually looks quite good, to be honest. I mean, 3D stuff is always going to look better in the case of the boats, but for what it is, this looks really nice.
For the roughly $50 for in US dollars, that's a hell of a good deal.
Yeah.
Every
time I see more Carnivale, I get tempted again. I own a whole heap of stuff from the first time Carnivale came out, and it never really took off, despite it having amazing rules. It's another one of those like really cinematic games where you can, like, there's rules for like running up buildings and diving down to kill people, and but nobody picked it up, so I never ended up playing it.
Yeah, but 8 minis for $50. I mean, that's a solid deal. I mean, that's better than your tax squad of Primaris.
Yeah,
Well, and you get 3 buildings with it too, like we were talking about, and all those little other cardboard punch outs.
Yeah, you get the stuff to play the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, moving on to the advent calendar. Day 1 was our first love. Day 7, because they started on day 7. Being Drop Fleet Commander, and we're getting
Space Station.
expansion kits for the space station of like actual guns and stuff.
More DACA. Lots of
it's,
DACA.
It's the one thing that they needed.
Lots of DACA.
There has been people that's kind of manually been doing this with like just destroying ships to do it, but I'm really happy to see that we're actually getting some proper.
They had some stuff in the original kit, but not as detailed as the stuff that we're seeing here.
Yeah. Now this stuff is going to be resin, not hard plastic, which is fine. I'm only mentioning that because it's different from the original kit. The other thing that they mention in this, which I hadn't actually been aware of, but the original Space Station kit is one of the best-selling drop fleet boxes they've ever had.
Well, you
'cause
know
you can
why,
kind of build
right?
anything out of it you want.
Yeah, exactly. It's so modular. You can.
Well, no.
One box.
A PHR player is going to buy it. A UCM player is going to buy it. Scourge and Sheltaria will probably buy it. So you got everyone buying it versus, this part of the group buying Sheltari and then UCM. But everyone's going to buy that.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how this works. I really like the idea of building the defense lines and everything. I kind of like the idea of building scenarios around the space stations, kind of like what Beasts of War did a while back.
That mega
when
station?
Yeah. I'd kind of love to see that.
Imagine the DACA you could put on that.
Yeah, I know. Day 8, or day 2, for those that can count. Sorry, Lewis, I'm just having fun. Is some Wild West kits. Like MDF terrain kits. And these look amazing.
Not just Wild West kits, but also Wild West, New Mexico, like Southern West
Southwest.
kits.
Because I wouldn't have known enough about Wild West to have made that connection.
Yeah, you got some...
Definitely Arizona, Southwest, U.S., New Mexico.
Nice.
Yeah, because you're like your first picture there, that's like, your average, Wild West town. Next two buildings... that one's a ranch house kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I did something with my cursor. Oh, and I made it really big so I can see everything. The
next
so
one's
you got
the church.
rundown. Then you got the rundown.
Yeah.
This next one is very like Southwest America, like
Adobe
Santa
style.
Fe. Yeah, Adobe. That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you got a very Spanish missionary looking type building.
They've done some
domes,
really,
chapels.
really good work here. I mean, my first thought for this is Wild West Exodus, because of course it is.
What's that game we just talked about where it was like the Indians and
the new Warlord one?
yeah.
Where it's like they're mythological creatures coming to battle with them as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, that would work for this.
Depending on how far they expand and like do they bring in, the invading white man, this could perfectly fall in for that game too.
I think my favourite... Sorry, I'm scrolling too fast. My favourite building is definitely the ranch house, because I just love how modular that is. But I love what they've done with the church. I love the fact that I can remove the church's bell tower and it just kind of becomes a little monastery thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost 2 kits in one. You could buy 2 or 3 of these and have completely different looking pieces at a glance. I love the fact that there's a windmill. I haven't seen somebody do a windmill yet. I mean, I'm sure there's some out there, but I haven't seen one.
The Spanish church.
Yes.
The mission.
Yes, I just said that. I could. Thank you, Captain
You did
Sox.
say it about 2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Words are hard. That could be a great display board piece for an Adeptus Sororities army. Sisters of Battle.
I also like the fact that the very last shot they have, Are either of you two familiar with the TV series? I've just completely forgotten the name of the show. Deadwood.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
With,
but that is the main street of Deadwood right there.
With Al Swearingen.
Yep. Except
Such a
that's not
great
Al
actor.
Swearingen's bar. Al Swearingen's bar is on the other side. That is the Nasty Man's bar. That gets stabbed.
Great looking set. I wish I had more of a reason for a Wild West terrain set.
I can think of a reason for you to buy it.
So I can have Wild West Exodus.
Mm-hmm. You're already saying you want to buy it, but you got nobody to play with.
You're a jerk.
Yep. Up next is all of the Drop Zone Commander, just all of it. They're releasing a whole heap of ultimate builds for stuff. I think this first model is my favourite, the UCM. What's the name of the Batmobile from the modern ones? The Tumbler. It's totally not the Tumbler.
There we go. Now everything's loaded. No, it's not the Tumbler because the Tumbler has 4 wheels and this is 6.
Yeah, it reminds me of the Tumbler. That's not a bad thing.
No. I've seen that little jet before. PHR.
Yeah, the PHR. Yeah, they're just swapping out the missile batteries instead of the stealth batteries or stealth missiles that you get normally.
Yeah, we've seen a version of this Scourge thing before as well. That had been not available for some time, and obviously now we can see why. Is it Eden's dinosaur? But there's also a normal version of it.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to remember.
That might be the next one I'm
other
thinking of. I think the next one I'm thinking of is the Eden's dinosaur.
Okay, so not knowing Drop Zone as well as I know Fleet, what is the Sheltari thing there, Socks? Do you have any sort of clue?
I have no idea. It looks somewhat familiar to an Ario tank, if I remember correctly, off of my Drop Zone.
I like the description of this. Don't ask me what these are, because I don't know.
Yeah.
All I know is the faction they belong to. But don't fear, all factions will be receiving reinforcements next year. So Drop Zone is going to continue to get good stuff in 2021.
So there's a lot of speculation. Someone was saying that, it's gate, for the troops and everything, or for bigger troops. And someone's asking if it's something from a drop fleet that's been brought in, and that made me think, maybe it's like a microwave array.
Well, it's definitely not a gate, because it could be because they could be coming out through the back there.
Yeah.
No, here. Let me pull up this link for you, and I'll put it in our chat. So this is one of the Sheltari commanders. It's the Crocodile tank. It's for it's a commander, one of their famous commanders, and that's the frill that you see on the back. But then that long front piece almost looks like a big cannon or energy weapon of some sort out the front along the spine.
Yeah, I see it.
Apologies to our video users. Our video is going to go weird for a second. Well, the only way that I can do that when you're in Discord is for me to go and click on the link, and it screws around with the video.
Here, I'll put it in our messenger for you, Bruce.
No, it's all good. I've got it now. All
Okay.
right. So, this is the... Oh, yeah, no, I can see what you're talking about. Yeah, no, that's definitely it. So it's a new version of the Crocodile.
Yeah, it's going to be a cross between a Crocodile or an Ariel or a Cayman tank. Something around there, which is a big, heavy grav tank.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so
look at this thing. This looks awesome.
My thought is, though, looking at it, was so if the one you posted up, Socks, it's got a big, particle lance looking cannon. This is a long array. This looks like it's going to go in somewhere and park and then just go boom out.
Yeah, very much so. I love that paint scheme they've got going for that too. That blue with the white and the red looks amazing.
Yeah, for the Crocodile.
Yeah. Moving on, day 10 is Rumble Slam. For those not familiar with Rumble Slam, it's Blood Bowl but with wrestling, which for a tabletop game just works in every way it possibly could.
Cthulhu.
In it, yeah, it's Cthulhu, basically. You've got two gorgeous-looking wrestlers here on the side, some ugly-looking monster that's with them. There's a dwarf that has a Cthulhu head. And I'm not sure what this gargoyle-y looking thing is. I'm going to say it's a gargoyle-y looking thing.
I would say this is like a couple of these are very Eldritch inspired.
Oh, very much so. So, the gargoyle-looking thing is apparently a shadowling hanger. A moody teenager that just enjoys hanging out. Oh, and flying on the turnbuckles. We've got a character called the Narcissist, which is the male, and a dark elf sadist. Oh, she's holding a knife. Oh, nice. I hadn't seen that. And what's the giant thing called? The giant thing is called the Throwing Shade. Oh no, it's the Gordon. Sorry, the Gorgon. Oh no, sorry. The Gorgon is what they are. The Throwing Shade is what the creature is. And it's the mother to all of them. I'm probably going to end up buying this, I suspect. If I don't, Tom will. I may not be allowed to buy this because Tom might want it. Which is one of the people I play Rumble Slam with. But there is nothing about this that I don't love. This particular game is how I first became aware of TTCombat as a company. As far as I know, it was the first game that they released. I could be wrong on that, though. Next up, we are going back into Carnivale, though. And this is the last of the reveals so far. So, next year they're expanding the Carnivale range with a whole bunch of miniatures. They're showing off some new apprentice doctors that look quite nice. And by nice, I mean nasty. There's also some stuff there for the guild, which is like a city guard type thing. Both male and female sculpts, which is nice. The next one is an early design thing, and I'm not familiar with that logo, so I think these might be a new faction, by the look of it.
Do you know what the feel I get from this artwork?
What feeling do you get?
I'm getting a Legend of Korra feel from the artwork and the shape of the characters.
Yeah, I could see that. Carnivale is based... Oh, hang on, let's continue. The Vatican have some new stuff. I like the guy that's got his face covered, personally. And there's a Strigoi down there as well. Carnivale is based in Venice. There's like a portal thing that opened above the city and everything's kind of gone to hell. And the doctors are like supposed to be like your mental health workers, but they're all completely twisted and experimenting on their patients and coming up with horrible monsters. The guild is the Thieves Guild, basically. But they're the closest thing to the good guys you actually have. Strigoi are vampires, for those that are not familiar with that term. The Vatican have kind of interfered and tried to clean things up for the Vatican, and yeah, it's quite in depth. And at the end, there's a reminder about the £35 starter set, which is very, very tempting. But that's it from TTCombat.
For now.
For now, yes. Either of you guys have favourites for what we've seen so far?
I'm liking the some of the new Drop Zone stuff. I haven't played Drop Zone in a while. I've been meaning to get back into it, but some of those new Drop Zone sculpts are looking awesome.
Yeah. I think the space station might be mine.
Wild West terrain, hands down for me.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's getting Exodus there, Bruce.
Shush.
He hasn't said that he's going to get it, but he's definitely going to get it. You should totally get it, George. Up next, during the Video Game Awards, whatever there is actually a proper name for it, but I'm just going to call it the Video Game Awards.
The VGAs.
G-Dub showed off the Dark Tide trailer, which is a video game. It's basically Vermintide, but in 40k. It feels a lot like video-wise, it feels a lot like the old Left 4 Dead to me. I don't know if either of you have ever played that.
Not that one.
But
No.
like the monsters are coming in waves. It appears that you're working as a group at all times. This looks like a lot of fun. Time will tell. Obviously, it's not out yet, but it is available on Steam to be added to your wish list, but it's not coming out to next year, so it's going to be interesting to watch this and see what it's actually like. Obviously, being a trailer of somebody else's work, I can't play it, but I am kind of... So we've got like... What's the ogre guys called in the Catachan? Like the big guys. In the Astra Militarum. George?
Oh, Ogrins.
Ogren. So we've got an Ogren here. There's a Tempest. What's his face here? There's a Sister of Battle there. And there is just a normal everyday soldier here. Obviously, everybody's going to have their own strengths and weaknesses. The Ogren is clearly going to be strong but slow. More damage but slow. And then it just depends on what happens from there, I guess. Yeah. Moving on. This particular piece of news is about a week old now. But I just thought it was interesting to touch on it. The pandemic situation kind of affected everybody. The one that we probably touched on, TTCombat completely shut down their lasers and everything. There's quite a few storefronts that just closed entirely for a while. G-Dub hasn't really been affected that much until last week. The Death Guard Codex release was delayed. It hasn't come out yet. They've delayed it entirely. We won't see this until 2021 at this point, which is fine. There was a few people that was like, oh, well, this is why they shouldn't be getting stuff done in X country. Leaving political things aside, I don't think that's really a very fair thing to be saying. But I'm more surprised that this hasn't happened more. Especially with the amount of releases that Games Workshop do. I've been kind of waiting for them to get to the point where we don't have the next thing ready yet. And the fact that it's only happened now really, really surprises me.
Well, this could show like how far out GW is.
Yes.
Like they're now being affected by this after 10 months.
Well, they usually work 12 months in advance from memory.
Something like that, yeah.
I don't think there's ever been a definitive timeline, but I definitely remember 12 months thrown around at some point.
I want to say that I was reading an interview somewhere or something like that, and one of the designers slipped that they, the next Primarch is a loyalist. It's designed, it's sculpted, it's ready to go. It's just, it's not released yet.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So, and that was like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, because they're picking their time. I still believe that it's going to make you very happy, personally. I know that everybody wants it to be Sanguinius, but that doesn't make any sense in the lore. I honestly think it's going to be the Lion. Yeah, exactly. There's been rumours for a long time that Sanguinius is coming back. I just don't see it happening.
It's going to be the Lion or the Wolf. It's one of those two.
I reckon it's going to be... I honestly think... Oh, sorry, no, the Wolf. Sorry, it's going to be the Wolf, personally. We know where the Lion is, but I just don't see them bringing the Lion back yet.
Well, except for, they know where he's at, and the Wolf, ran off and did his own thing, but in theory, he's, going to come back, because the signs are there, and they've summoned Bjorn to talk about it, and blah, 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 blah. I don't. I also think this is partly in too much of Games Workshop pushing too much too quickly. I mean,
That's been a problem for a while. Though I understand why they do.
I understand that they have a huge intellectual property. I mean, if you were to take all of the drop universe, you still don't have half of what 40K is for rules and factions, and you're talking two different game systems. You know, I understand that they can't just be like, here is a new edition, here are all the new codexes, here's all the new. They can't do that. There's too much.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they've already pushed out into another edition, and they never finished releasing stuff for the previous edition.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
the idea is obviously supposed to be that if we keep on pushing things, people can't get distracted and realise there's other stuff out there. I mean, the whole point of White Dwarf is to stop you looking elsewhere. You get White Dwarf so that you look at Games Workshop stuff. It tells you everything you need to know. You don't need to worry about what other people are releasing. Because the whole idea is that we keep everything in-house. When we put your blinders on. And I'm not having a go. That's just, this is their marketing strategy. I'm not entirely convinced it works as well as they think it does anymore. But that's clearly the strategy. And they keep on pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Because, I mean, I know this Carnivale stuff is really good. But I can't afford that right now because Death Company's out next week. Or the week after. Or when it happens. Just for example.
Right, yeah.
And when they've... Because their competitive side... They continue to do the one thing that I've always hated 40k for. Which is the power...
power gamers?
The escalation. Like, in every army, the next army has more power. Power creep, thank you. We haven't seen power creep in 9th edition yet, but I know that we will, because it's 40k, you always will.
Well, yeah, it's how it is. I mean, Space Wolves, you know, they got their codex in 8th edition. Thunderwolf Cavalry was disgusting. Wolfen were disgusting. I mean, I had a Outrider detachment that was just absolutely gross. I couldn't shoot anything, but I could fly across the board in a turn and take out a knight.
Yep.
With troops. That's how gross they were. And now, from what I've heard, I haven't bothered to look because I've been focusing on other stuff like being a parent and crap like that. From what it sounds like, they've been neutered. Literally neutered.
Yeah. Now, Captain Socks, you've never played any Games Workshop stuff. Really?
I haven't even touched it. Yeah. I haven't played a demo game or anything like that, so nope.
Hypothetically, and I'm not saying that you're getting into it, because obviously you're not, but of all the discussions that we've had in both of, like, the Age of Sigmar and 40k stuff, has there been anything that caught your eye as in, ooh, I'd like that?
I would probably go more the Age of Sigmar fantasy side of the two.
Because I suppose because if you're going 40k, you may as well be going Star Wars for you, I suppose, because it's just it's still sci-fi.
Yep.
Well, and this is my opinion. I think the Sigmar side with the fantasy, I think, is so much more a solid game right now. And it ever since they did the first rule change from the first release of Sigmar, it's been that much more of a solid game than 40k has ever been, in my opinion.
Yeah. It still gets a lot of hate from the people that are still annoyed that fantasy is dead. I think they need to get over it, but yeah, it is what it is. Death Guard wise, they've never really been my favourite faction. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. It's zombies in space. It's like, it's in every game. The Mortarion is still gorgeous, but it's just Nurgle's stuff has just never really interested me. I understand why people like it. It's just not for me. But we'll come back to 40k a little bit later. This next piece of news is not really going to mean much to either of you because we're talking about an Australian/New Zealand company. Kogan. Most people would know Kogan for selling cheaper TVs. That is essentially how they started. They started as an upstart from a single guy in Sydney that kind of realised that most of these parts are purchased from the same places in China and Malaysia and so on and so forth, and then put together themselves. He started a deal where he could Gray import the parts and put them together, and basically started making his own generic TVs. It's kind of grown from then. He kind of Gray imports a lot of stuff. Gray importing is, for example, I'm going to buy... there's... What's a good example? I'm going to buy a Switch game from the US, and it's going to get shipped to me because it's cheaper than... Even with paying postage, it's cheaper than me buying it here, for example. That wouldn't actually be a good example, but... it's probably not something that you see in the US a lot. It gets done in Australia mainly because we get ripped off so often. So there's actually a genuine market for screwing the local retailers and importing it from elsewhere. And in saying that, I'm not having a go. I understand why it happens. I do it as well. It's not good for the local retail. They need to fix the Australia tax and stop accepting it. Speak with your wallet. Anyway, enough ranting. Kogan have paid $122 million to purchase Mighty Ape. For people that have been in the hobby for a long time, people may remember that Mighty Ape was the company that brought out Slave to Painting. When they wanted to get out of the business, basically. Mighty Ape are a lot more than just a hobby store, though. They kind of feel a lot more like Amazon to me, because they have electronics, they have games, they have... It's one of those storefronts where you name it and they carry it, most likely. It's where most of my Kings of War stuff has come from, because they were, price-wise, probably the better one. It's where I got the stupidly cheap Abyssal Dwarf stuff from recently. But on the article here, it talks about how it's collectibles and homewares and board games and toys and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So this is huge. Kogan haven't really done anything hobby-wise. I did notice that they had a few of the Frostgrave books on their website. Kogan has third parties selling through them, kind of like Amazon does. They're just not quite as big, but they're clearly making a push. From a customer point of view, I don't see this changing much. Like, realistically, I just don't see it happening at all. Kogan bought Dick Smith Electronics, which still exists. There's a few of their storefronts that were closed. I don't see much changing from a customer point of view very much. But to me, at least, it looks like Kogan's making a bid to try to stop Amazon from getting a bigger foothold in Australia than they already do. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is up for debate. Kogan's not exactly the small upstart company that they like to pretend they are. They were originally, but they are a multi-glomerate thing now. So
they're like Amazon.
Pretty much. I mean, they're not as big as Amazon. They're not even close. But the fact that they just dropped $1.2 million... $122 million to purchase one of their competitors is saying quite a bit.
Right?
I just hope that it doesn't affect the hobby side of things. I don't expect that it's going to. I really don't think that you're going to see much change at all. It's probably better for them if they just keep pretending like they're a different company. I suspect that we'll probably start seeing some hobby stuff turn up on Kogan.com. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah. I doubt that either of you two have much thoughts on that, because you don't really know any of the people involved.
Nope.
Yeah. It is what it is. I'm covering that for the same reason we covered the Combat Company one a few months ago.
Sure.
Which was bigger news, because it was actually one of the importers as well. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I just don't expect it'll change much from a customer point of view. However, we have new stuff coming from Marvel. I
Yes.
definitely
Well,
have
Star
opinions
Wars.
on this. Oh, sorry,
Hang
Star
on.
Wars first. There's reprints happening for Star Wars.
Well, not just reprints, but the Clone Wars starter fleets for both the clones, the Galactic Republic, and the Separatist fleets, as long as they're squadron packs, they got released last Friday, so a week ago from yesterday.
Yep.
And then they, with the release of those starter fleets, they had to change some of the rules a little bit to add them into it. And so, in order to change the rules for that, they reprinted all the old upgrade cards from the original sets
Yep.
to allow for the changes in the rules.
That actually
So,
makes a lot of sense. I mean, whenever reprints happen for things like this, there's always going to be someone that goes, grr, I got in there first, grr. But when there's rule changes and stuff, it kind of needs to happen. Can you buy? You can't buy their cards through the website, can you? So you can't get digital copies of them, can you? You have to actually
can.
buy them.
You can. They have the erratas on a PDF that you can download, and people have then taken the picture and pasted it onto a piece of paper that you can then print just that portion of it and stick it onto your old card if you wanted to. So until they came out with these reprints. So for the old Empire Rebellion sets.
Yeah.
So I picked up a card pack just so I could have those all ready for my previous factions because as part of my Christmas, I'm getting the Separatist fleet.
Nice.
And then now MCP there, my friend.
Yeah. So, Angela and Enchantress models that are coming out. We also have She-Hulk, which is by far my favourite right now. The Enchantress model we have seen very, very early on. But I'm not 100% sure on Angela. For those unfamiliar, Enchantress is from the Thor side of things. Has not appeared in the the Marvel movie universe yet. She has been in pretty much every cartoon they've ever done though. Angela is an interesting one. Anybody a fan of Spawn? No?
I know of it.
I
I'm
remember
not
watching
a huge
it a
fan
long
of
time
it.
ago, but
Angela is a character that was originally created for the Spawn universe.
Oh, interesting.
that's
But
interesting.
Todd McFarlane and the creator of this character had a falling out, and they went to court over Angela. And the creator of Angela won. And then a few years later, he ended up selling the character to Marvel, and it's now in the Marvel Universe, which is just really weird. Why does it matter? It doesn't. I just found it interesting. From those two, I think Angela is my preferred sculpt. I find the Enchantress one a little bit dull. I mean, it's not bad. It's just she's kind of floating there with a hand up. I don't know. I'd kind of prefer to see her like pulling the magic up or something. I don't know. But this next one, oh my lord, this next one, I'm all over this next one. I might actually buy She-Hulk before I buy a lot of other things. She-Hulk is the cousin of Bruce
there's two
Banner.
links.
Yes, there's two
Yes.
links.
Well, that looks like She-Hulk.
Yep. It looks straight out of the comics. The thing I like is it actually looks like the girder she's holding is heavy. Which is really hard to capture in a mini. It's for the same reason it's hard to capture in a cartoon. For those unfamiliar with She-Hulk, as I said, she's the cousin of Bruce Banner. There was a blood transfusion that happened and she ended up catching it. But she doesn't kind of lose control like he does. She can kind of control it, but she's also kind of that all the time now. There was this thing where she was... This is part of the character. It's not me having negative things. She was kind of boring and didn't have a lot of confidence, and then she got all of these muscles and all of this sex appeal, and she was like, "Oh, I feel so much better now." She was like she was like really happy that it happened. She's a lawyer, which is interesting as well. Wait, is it lawyer? Yeah, she's a lawyer. Yeah. She's been a member of the Avengers. There is a TV show coming for She-Hulk at some point next year. I don't remember who's playing She-Hulk. It's probably somebody important.
Well, with all the releases that Disney just put out
Yeah.
for everything, Star Wars, Marvel Universe, there's a lot coming out over the next couple of years.
Oh,
Yeah, WandaVision, Falcon, Winter Soldier, and Loki. Their trailers were just all released.
Yeah.
And then, a lot of the stuff that we're getting from Legion is coming from the expanded universe that we're seeing from Clone Wars cartoon series, and people are speculating that we may see some stuff from the Mandalorian here in the next year or two within the Legion universe.
Yep. So that's it from the news. I've kind of kept the news smaller this week. We did kind of go on for a bit, but the reason why I've kept the news smaller is because we have a fairly heavy topic coming up in Game Talk. But very, very quickly, I want to touch...
It's time that one Bruce and two Yanks gave some attention to the Indies.
George has been playing with my audio since... What was
I literally just played it from the Google Drive.
Nice. Okay, so Pop Goes the Monkey is a website that I came across about a week and a half ago. It seems to be getting advertised quite heavily on Facebook at the moment. I have suspicions that they may be connected with Spiky Bits, but I don't know that for a fact. I only mention it because I've seen Spiky Bits share their link. But it could be a coincidence. Anyway, they do custom pieces for 40k models. So, hypothetically, George, let's have a look at the main website for you. And if you scroll down a little bit, you will find Wolf Legions.
So I have heard of this before. When I was searching for some frost weapons for my Thunderwolf Cavalry, I think it was Shapeways is the 3D printing site I went through.
Yep.
And Pop Goes the Monkey is one of the designers. So I don't know I don't know where the connection is, but so Pop Goes the Monkey has quite a few things, and it's all 3D print files. I didn't look to see about the files or anything. But I know if you go to Shapeways, you can just say, I want this, I want it, printed like this. And then like a week later, you got it.
Yep. So in the Wolf Legions, for example, there's a whole heap of shields. There's your obvious shoulder insignia. I love the dire wolf helms. They look kind of cool. You can get patterns for the Redemptor Dreadnought to make it look more like your actual chapter. Backpacks, weapons. There is no shortage of what these guys have done. There's even specific character designs so that you can convert a Primaris Marine to look like a specific character. Or a type of character.
So the other thing I'll say too is also he's broken it down into like the very the sub factions within the Space Wolves too.
Yep. Yeah. There's a similar thing for Blood Angels, so Sanguine Legions. There's all of the shoulder pads in the world, including your Death Company stuff. There's your insignias for the shoulders as well as for your knees. There's vehicle stuff. Again, there's stuff for your Redemptor Dread. I think the thing that got me the most oh, hang on. There's also, as of this morning, a giant squib that you can buy for the Orcs. They also have a Contender Dreadnought for the Space Marines. So these are all for use to customize your army in 40k, but it's not 40k parts. These are all unique sculpts that they've designed themselves. I've just realised that I haven't been showing any of this. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
So
Like I
this
said,
is the dread that I was just talking about. That's the dreadnought. And just to give you an idea of all of the different factions that you can get stuff from, I'm just scrolling down while George talks.
I was gonna say when I was looking for the swords and everything for my Marines, I spent a lot of time looking at this guy's stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. Let me.
While you're looking at that,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you found it?
I found what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this in our group chat because if I were to build a custom chapter of Space Marines, I'm using Windows shortcuts on my Mac.
Can
that
you
does not work.
put it in the Facebook chat so it doesn't screw up my video again?
I suppose.
While you're doing that, there's also custom, which I suspect is what you're finding as well. There's custom chapters. So I've got the Ancient Egypt ones up at the moment.
Well,
Now, why would you want those, Brute or George? You don't need those.
I mean, you can make a Marine Space Marine.
Okay, now even I think that's cool.
It is cool.
I mean, it's cool because you've got to have somebody on the table that's going to lose. And if anybody's going to lose, it may as well be the Crayon Eaters.
That's right.
I need to brush you up on a warfighting history of the Marines there, Brucey.
The Marines? Wait, are we talking about the Marines, the chapter that doesn't exist anymore? Aren't they just part of the regular army now?
No, they just got rid of their tanks.
Oh, okay. There is the thing, like the Ancient Egypt. Sorry, I got sidetracked. They've designed custom weapons for like counts as stuff. So there's the Ramses blade, but if it was a chainsword, for example, like this is like they have Anubis helmets. You could like make a Stargate faction, sort of, if you really wanted to.
Ooh.
There's a similar sort of idea with East Asia. So you've got Shinto swords here, Guandals. You've got shoulder pads that are very resemblant of samurai. Customized helms that look very similar. But they've really, really gone above and beyond here. My favourite has to be the Silverbacks. So the Silverbacks are a guerrilla-themed faction. You've got arms for your Terminators. Obviously, you got your shoulder insignia. You have guerrilla helmets.
This is how big this stuff is. I'm still looking for the Silverbacks. There it is.
You've got shoulder pads with African-inspired designs on them. They call it Quentasathe, or Kentasathe. It feels very Black Panther in its design, so I assume that it's... I'm sorry, it is an assumption. I assume it's designed on traditional stuff, because most of the Black Panther stuff from the movie was. I am genuinely very, very tempted by the Silverbacks. I'm not doing anything with the Silverbacks, but genuinely that's very tempting. If you was to do something like that, the good thing is that you could then say this counts as whatever you want. Because, I'm going to be Blood Angels today. They're a chapter of the Blood Angels. They're Space Wolves tomorrow. Etc, etc, etc. Because who says that they're not? It's a custom chapter that's been designed by someone else.
Right.
And gorillas are awesome. And one last look at the one that George liked.
Sea wolves.
Like, there is a really stupid amount of stuff on here.
The Greek and Roman stuff.
They even
like
have
the-
Angry Marines. I'm sorry, they have the Angry Marines. The biggest meme in 40k that's ever existed actually has parts that you can buy, including bats that have spikes coming out of them.
Oh, hey, look at that. Oh, or just a big old monkey wrench.
Yep. Like if you ever wanted to find something that was a little bit out of the ordinary, this is 100% where you want to go, without question. As I said, where they started is something I'm not 100% sure of. I have a feeling they might be connected with spiky bits somehow. But I could be completely wrong on that. I don't know. But that's it for aiming of the indie for this week. Shall we move on to hobby time?
Cream, blue, prime, plain.
So how's your week been, Captain Sucks?
So, started painting some of my Warlord Victory Sea ships. Started painting the Iowa and the Essex class carrier.
Nice.
So working on that, but then I got like I was telling you, Bruce, earlier, my son's birthday is tomorrow.
Yep.
Went out store shopping yesterday. He bought some V2 battle droids. So I've been helping actually him and my oldest son, put together their Clone Wars stuff.
Nice.
So starting to teach the next generation of gamers. So that's what I've been doing lately.
Brainwashing the younger children the way it should be done.
That's right. Exactly.
Get them hooked on minis because then they won't have money for drugs.
Yep.
Absolutely.
What about yourself, George? You been up to much hobby-wise? I know you've had a horrible week, but it's actually been a month since we've seen you, so...
Now, let's see if I can... I did get something in the mail. Camera is moving. I don't know if it'll focus in on it. Does not look like it will. Oh, yeah, it will on the Aquila on the chest.
So is this what you received in the mail, or is this something you've been working on?
That's something I received in the mail.
Nice.
The frost effect.
Oh,
that's right.
yes!
So...
We spoke about this a couple of episodes ago. It's a paint that will just replicate ice and stuff on your minis.
So you actually do have to put it on not really heavy, reasonably heavy, and get any sort of effect. I put it on the trim on the shoulder pad, and my camera won't focus on it, but
Yeah.
you can't see it. But then I put it on the Aquila on the chest and around his hair.
Try putting your
very
hand behind
heavily.
the mini. Like, block the view of your face.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Yep. So yeah, you can't see it on the shoulder pad very well. It is very evident on the backpack.
Yeah.
And
oh,
on
no,
the,
it's on,
the Aquila-
around the corner there. I can see it.
Yeah, and so I put it on pretty heavily on the chest, and on the hair itself of the mini too.
Yeah.
And it turned out reasonably well. I am mostly happy with it. I'm not even going to try to show it because it'll be nearly impossible. But it creeped down onto the eyebrows, and the eyebrows just turned into frost.
Nice.
And left the forehead.
That's pretty cool.
So I'm probably going to have to go through and paint all the heads with it for my Space Wolves army.
How liberal do you have to be with the paint?
Not as heavy as it's really hard to gauge because I'd say like a coat and a half to get any sort of effect. Like doing a thin coat, like I did on the shoulder pad, yielded almost no result. But then like getting it on pretty heavy, like to the point of I was covering detail, is what it took to get on the chest and the head effect.
Yeah.
So just like kind of like, normal painting with some wet paint, it's like you put a nice, nice smooth coat down and then it'll dry out and into the detail recesses. So, been having some fun with that. I've been working on just trying to get stuff cleaned up. I I've been prepping for my kitchen remodel, and that has just been turning my house into chaos. So
Yeah, I can imagine.
Things been getting piled everywhere. So, um, that being said, not going to talk about too much here, but I've been looking at some stuff to work on doing video content with better quality and much easier too.
Yeah, which you've kind of been looking in the same sort of directions that I have, for the same reasons, just trying to get better content out, because there's only so much you can do with a webcam.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the webcams are great, but yeah, there is only so much you can do with them. And they're always trying to focus on a body part, so if you're trying to paint something, it'll focus on your hand and it won't look at the mini, and it makes things interesting.
Yeah.
Personally, I have some new Drop Fleet stuff that arrived. I have the new boarding cutters, the Hirokus.
Ooh, I was just looking at those. Those look pretty cool.
Yeah. I've also got a thing of monitors, and I've realised as of this morning that this means I have 2 packets of them, because I've already ordered them before. But that's alright. I can just build them as different versions. Along with that, I don't know how well these are going to show up. I've got some Eastern Empires terrain from TTCombat that I get to build up. These are just like small house type things for a Bushido board. And I have a starter set for the new Digimon card game. I'm not a huge Digimon person, but it looked interesting, and it's the same people that made the Dragon Ball game, so I was kind of interested to check that out. It's kind of completely sold out everywhere right now. My advice would be don't try to buy it until January. You will get ripped off. There was a preview event of the English version that pretty much sold out worldwide very, very quickly. You can buy things, but it's only from the scalpers right now. There will be more stock coming in January, but that is going to be limited as well. It's kind of been hit, same as COVID. But otherwise... Oh, and the Skeletor arrived. Otherwise, most of my hobby time has actually been concentrated on the lore of something that I'm doing. Now, I know both of you guys know this already, but I'm trying to play it cool here. There's been a game that I've talked about getting back into, and then like, no, I'm not doing it. And then I'm getting back into it. No, I'm not doing it. Well, I finally brought 40k stuff. It hasn't arrived yet, but I have brought it. But it's not the Necrons. It's the Space Marines. I'm rebuilding my original Blood Angels army. But I'm going to try and do this the smart way this time. Because like most people when I got into the hobby, I just brought everything that looked cool. And I need one of those, I'll buy one. But I've brought a copy of the Indomitus box set. It's a horrible word. Indomitus box set. Because it's the smartest way to buy in for Blood Angels. Everything's kind of good with it. I'm undecided what I'm going to do with the Necrons. I might just keep them, honestly. Because I was already interested in them. And just keep them as just a painting project. But we'll see. I may sell them. We'll see. But I am going to build a custom Blood Angels chapter from scratch. And this time, because the original time I built my army, which ended up being huge, but it was mostly unpainted and stuff and unfinished because I just had to keep on. I fell for the power creep, and it's like, oh, that's no good. I haven't even finished it. Well, I better buy the thing that is good. But I'm trying to be more. I'm trying to be clever in the way that I make my purchases this time. I already know that I wanted a Redemptor Dreadnought. I am getting custom pieces for that, but not from the website we were just looking at. I'd ordered from somewhere else before I found them. From the one that George, from Scale Bro, the one that George pointed out a week or so ago. The reason I reacted so heavily to your... Remember those wolf armor things that you shared for the Redemptor Dread?
Oh, yeah, the Libra Demonica.
Yep. I already have some of those coming, but I have the Blood Angel version.
I have the Space Wolf coming now, too.
Yeah. I don't have a Redemptor coming yet. I will have one coming, but I just haven't ordered it yet. It's out of stock, which is fine.
But mine's down there in a box.
I don't own anything 40k rate yet. Well, I suppose I do. It's just in the mail.
Right.
So yeah, the plunge is made, and the plunge is being made with the faction that I swore that I would never sell, and then did sell. Blood Angels is my first 40k love, and I kind of want to rebuild it again. I'm going to be building it so that it's reasonable to play with. I'm not a competitive playing person. I actually hate the competitive 40k scene, and I do mean hate. I find it really, really annoying. Personally, I just like custom. I just like friendly games. The reason I'm going to build my army to lean that direction is because I'm not the best 40k player in the world. DICE hate me. It's the only chance I actually have of having a competitive game. Because, I mean, we have all seen it at this point. D6s in particular hate me with a seething passion. It is what it is. But yeah, it's finally happening. My airbrush is probably going to get a lot of use. Question I have for the audience is whether people would like to hear me talk about the lore behind my custom chapter or not. It's still very much in the development stage at this stage, but if anybody would be interested in like a video or an audio of me talking, whether it be front or whether we do it behind the scenes through the Patreon, whether people would like to hear it. Because there's definitely going to be a lot of work go into it, but that doesn't mean that other people will find it interesting. I can't believe I did it. It's happening. It's fine.
Is this why you're saying that I'm going to be doing well in Exodus because you've done this now?
No.
Yes.
You're going to do it eventually. The only thing that's stopping you at this point is you already have too many unpainted projects.
Yeah. Like everything right here.
Yeah. Shall we move into game talk?
Let's move into game talk.
Talk nerdy to me.
Okay. This following subject is going to be a touchy one. It involves attacks that have been made on people within the hobby that we think are extremely inappropriate. We will do our best not to read the insults that are the most heinous. But just keep in mind, if you're someone that finds this sort of subject touchy because of your background or whatever, just keep in mind, we are not the people that have made any of these attacks. To my knowledge, we don't know the people that have made these attacks. I have personally spoken with one of the people that's received one. I don't know them, but I've spoken with them. I'm not saying that this is a new thing in the hobby, but it's definitely something that we've seen more of late. We've kind of briefly touched on it a couple of episodes ago about like the attacks going on to female people in the hobby. It's not just that. It's definitely a heavy part of it. About a month and a half ago... Oh, the other thing I'm not going to do is mention the names of the people involved, because we haven't been given express permission to actually mention them. So, we're going to talk about the subject, but not about the actual people. All of the things that we are going to discuss, if you want to look for them, can be found on either Twitter or Facebook. The first one came from Twitter and received quite a bit of attention. It's the reason why I wanted to talk about this to begin with. This was a female that's in the hobby. I don't know this person. I've never spoken with this person. I did attempt to reach out to them. Listeners of the podcast from a few episodes ago may actually make the connection now, because I think I might have mentioned on air that I had approached them. Basically, I'm going to talk around this message to try to give you an idea of why I want to talk about this. The message received starts by saying that they're a poor excuse for a woman, that their painting is terrible, and that they are, and I quote, not welcome in the Warhammer community. That is then followed by a racial slur and an S word that is very nasty to use towards women. It also mentions someone else in the hobby. I don't know who this other person is because it's censored. I don't know that this person is involved. I also don't know who it is. Apparently stand for liking everything that this other person stands for, and that this particular person that's being attacked is just a hater. It then goes on to talk about the history and about how if things had been done right when this person was born, they would have not even been allowed to live. Basically, they're suggesting they should have been killed when they were born. Followed by more racial slurs. And then it goes to talk on about how the type of people that we need in the hobby and not you. Telling them to go and die in a nuke. More racial slurs. More racial slurs. Talks about how we need more beautiful white princesses like... I don't know who it censors the name of the person. Not more racial slurs. And this is just one. Now, don't get me wrong. Personality clashes are going to happen. George had a personality clash with somebody earlier this year. It's going to happen. Very different subject to what we're talking about, though. This is just outright abuse. Like, there was a point in time where we had almost no women in the hobby at all. And it's been a problem for a long time. But because somebody is online and they're in the hobby, that's... I know that these guys have actually read the message that I'm referring to, and they know why I'm not quoting specific things, but...
Yeah. So I'm going to go into this from the standpoint of the reason why this was sent is because, well, one, the guy's just a Neanderthal and just, stupid as hell.
Yeah.
Two, he's part of that good old boys club where, this is where the guys go and hang out. This is where he goes and hangs out with his friends. He doesn't need whomever invading his hobby time with his friends.
Yeah. Which is very much where the next one's leading into as well.
The next part of and this is nothing new. This can be, in Captain Socks, you can probably attest to this too with diversity you see in the Air Force. But this is not a new problem.
No.
We're just now in an age of technology to where everything is so documented and everyone has a publication platform to share this on now to unfortunately show how many narrow-minded idiots we have out there.
It's probably the best thing about Twitter is that you have a platform to be able to share these things now. None of this is new. This next one is kind of like, it starts with a comment on YouTube. So, you're why people don't take female reviewers seriously. The person actually responded, basically calling them on their crap. I'm just reading this ahead. No, this is safe to read. So, because I play the game, have all the books, played at a comp level, have 17 different armies, run a game store, and because I'm better than you will ever be at this game? ? Because trolling the trolls. The response is the thing that I wanted to point out. No, because you use your... I'm going to say breasts, but it doesn't say breasts. As clickbait, just to admit it's not in an actual ban list 20 seconds into the video. So, because this person is female, their physical form is clickbait. When this actually comes from a video that was actually labelled accurately and very... The video was actually talking about the subject, and there's a picture of her in the frame, which almost all YouTubers do.
Yeah.
Like, literally, almost all of them do. And it's usually something like... Or something. But there's always... But because she's female, it's clickbait. When it's clearly not advertised as that sort of video. This boys club shit needs to stop. I mean, you don't have to play with girls if you don't want to. It's okay. But you can't attack people for wanting to be in a hobby. The last one has actually come on semi-recently.
Well,
Who
this
remembers
is
Matthew Ward and the hate around Matthew Ward for quite a while? Matt Ward was hated at for a long time for some of the law changes he made to 40k. Rightly or wrongly. But he censored it. The email address was apparently fu at, but it was a fake email address, obviously. They've edited it to be smart, because of course they are. I'm going to kind of talk through this one again. But what gives you the right to change the Warhammer 40k universe so heavily that it impacts on the enjoyment of millions of people around the world? You tiny... You can probably guess which direction that's going. The Ultra Smurfs are... So, but this is a fanboy that's throwing a tantrum over the fact that the law had got changed. This was very, very common at one point. Very publicly, too. The same thing was happening around the fantasy universe, because he was very involved in that. There's rumours that this man was attacked in a car park at one point by these sorts of people. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, that's even worse.
Well, it wouldn't shock me. There's a fairly famous video when they killed Warhammer Fantasy and went to Age of Sigmar, where some guy raged, put out his entire Dark Elves army, doused it in an accelerant, and lit it on fire.
Yep.
These are the same people doing this.
Yeah. The quote on the person that shared this on Twitter was, "If there's one bright side of not writing for Black Library anymore, it's that I no longer receive delightful emails like these." Which was in response to what Matt Ward had shared. Suggesting that this is very, very common.
Very common.
Our hobby is at a point at this stage where it's growing rapidly. Not everybody's going to like the fact that there's more people playing it, but we need more people in this hobby, or the hobby is going to die. That is... I'm not saying the hobby is dead, but if you don't get new people in the hobby, it will eventually die. People drop out of the hobby all the time. Not everybody that gets into this hobby is a kid. Not everybody is male or female. There's a huge trans community in the hobby. We, to some extent, have gotten over these gatekeeping stuff with painting practices and stuff a long time ago. Captain Socks and I kind of touched on that last episode, or the one before.
Yep.
But, I mean, I'm not white knighting here. None of these people need me to back them up. They've all defended themselves quite capably.
The YouTuber, she did a very spot-on job herself.
Yes. Oh yeah. Her final response is, "Yet you're here giving me views and commenting. Do me a favour and like the video and ring the bell for notifications." Like, she's Bugs Bunnied it. Where it's like kissing up to being cruel to be kind, or whatever that term is. But we're in a hobby that needs more people. We're in a hobby that hasn't always been taken very seriously in ways that we didn't appreciate. And now that it is starting to get treated seriously, we're going to complain about we're getting what we want. Is how it feels, anyway. Like I said, it's a touchy subject. There's a reason we waited like a month before talking about this. Most of what I've shown the guys here, and I'm not showing it on the screen for a very obvious reason, but most of what I'm sharing on here happened within like 12 hours of when we recorded that time we first mentioned it a month ago. And we kind of felt like we wanted to let the dust settle and not talk about it while it was still such a hot topic. There's hobbyists that have legitimately left Twitter over similar things. Especially, like, the attacks on the females is... It doesn't mean they can't defend themselves, but the fact that it's happening as frequently as it is really terrifying. I mean, these are people that you might know. I mean, females getting pictures of people's private parts is common enough. Let alone the threats and the violent crap that's being spewed out about how people should have been killed when they were born.
Well, and I think part of the issue is too is, you know, for the longest time, you know, the face of the hobby was the quote unquote, you know, mouth breathing, hamgall, basement dwellers with the bad attitude, and the hobby has expanded beyond that personality. I mean, you know, look at Captain Socks at least, right? But
he's a normal human being that actually has like a family and kids and stuff.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that group of people is still the face of the hobby. And they're still spitting out there, you know, holier than thou, you are not, you know, worthy of this hobby because of whatever reason they have. And
yeah. And for those talking about the Black Library stuff being changed, go and read some more books. The lore of 40k is the most unreliable source you can find. It's been changed from day one. It's never been consistent. It's always been updated and changed. A very obvious example, the Eldar Wraith Knight when it was introduced. And this is an example that's being used from one of the people that was attacked. The Eldar Wraith Knight was never in the lore. When they designed it, they referenced a picture that was not a Wraith Knight. It was very clearly something else. They just wrote it in a way that it felt like it made sense. They kind of did the same thing with when the Blood Angels found their Baal Predator with the hotted up engine. It never existed, but they wrote it in a way that made sense. Where it felt like it belonged there. As opposed to the Imperial Knights that did actually exist in Epic, and that's where their source comes from. Star Wars changed too. Sorry. I mean, I don't like the changes they made to Star Wars either, but it doesn't mean I'm going to go and threaten to kill George Lucas.
Or, you know, send
or the 4-year-old, the 10-year-old that was playing the character that's now... That's a really depressing story with the way he got treated.
I was also going to mention a guy who played Jar Jar Binks. You know, he received so much hate, he contemplated suicide. I mean, you know...
And that is where this stuff leads. Unfortunately. There was a wrestler. I know you guys aren't... There's a Japanese wrestler that literally did do that like about a month and a half ago as a result of these sort of things. Like this stuff is obviously not okay, but it goes further than that. You're responsible for the death of people to the point where you should be getting held accountable, and laws will change eventually. There's already talk of that in most government authorities of bringing laws into effect because of it. I know that the US and Australia has both mentioned it. The UK have been talking about it for a while too. The UK is probably going to be the first to the party with it. But your anonymous thing online is not going to last. It doesn't even last now. But that shouldn't be why you're not doing it. You want to have some friends? Try being friendly.
Well, that's the problem with these basement dwelling mouth breathers.
Yeah.
They don't know how to have friends.
Yeah.
If they're not mouth breathing basement dwellers.
So, sorry that Game Talk was such a sour topic today. Like I said, I mean, it probably comes across like I'm white knighting. It's not really the intention. This is a subject that I felt was that important that you can't just not talk about it. This stuff does happen in person as well. It's not just online. I mean, there are stores that you will walk into and feel instantly uncomfortable. Not necessarily because of this, but situations like this. If you've got people that are like that in your gaming groups, you need to kind of say something. Because being quiet about it is not the answer. I mean, if this person is the one that spends most of their money in that store, maybe I can understand why the store owners don't want to say something. But if I'm sitting here talking about how I think somebody should be killed because of the sort of person that they are...
Or how they're painting stuff.
Yeah, because someone's from Alderaan, they should be dead, and you're not pointing that out, it kind of looks like you agree with them. Just saying. Anyway, I don't think we have any upcoming events. There's certainly none that I know of.
I just found out, or saw in, well, go ahead, Bruce. George.
No, I don't know of any upcoming events.
Las Vegas Open just got canceled for next year. I just heard.
Oh, damn.
So,
No.
yep. I just saw it posted in my Star Wars group on Facebook a few days ago.
LVO was the last of the big ones that happened before COVID, I think.
Yeah, it was. It was
either that one or there might have been one after it. Have they said anything about doing it online or something instead, or are they just cancelling it entirely?
They might be doing something like they did with Gen Con, where they had some online stuff, but I haven't read into it too much. So
Cool. Disappointing to hear.
yeah, but with COVID the way it still is, we may see some conventions still be put on hold for another 10 months or so.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Oh well. That being the case then, despite the sour topic that we ended on, if you would like to support us, you can do that at $2 a month. Like we do try to talk about quite a few topics here hobby-wise. We're trying to improve video quality, as you heard George referring to. That there's little things that we've been trying to do to improve the quality of the videos that we're doing. Trying to push new content, get more people listening. If you can spare $2 a month, that's literally all it is. Patreon.com/gettingtabled. The best place to follow us on media is Facebook. Facebook.com/gettingtabled. It's the first place that anything gets posted. If we're going to pick on each other, it's usually the first time that we make a joke at somebody's expense. We do have a Twitter, which is @gettingtabled. That's also the Instagram handle. And the website is gettingtabled.weebly.com. If you would like to email us, which for some reason I haven't put there, it's gettingtabled@gmail.com. Have I missed anything?
YouTube, if you search Getting Tables.
Aha, yes.
That one.
Visit us on YouTube. It's the only place that you will be able to look at the video version of this 1 week later. Our Patreons get exclusive access to the video version of the podcast for the first 4 to 5 days, and then it becomes available publicly the weekend after it's gone live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Table. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Mathias at soundimage.org.
Sorry,
Hey,
Captain Socks, we're going to ignore you for another 2 weeks.
That's fine.
4 weeks.